This is Financially Fit Business with Ruth King.
Welcome to the Financially Fit Business Podcast. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to the health of your business or your clients' businesses. I'm your host, Ruth King. Here is how we will help you increase the financial fitness of your businesses today. In the last episode, I gave you the why and the overall reason to get rid of billing by the hour and start doing financial advisory services and billing by value pricing. And it's not a method that you won't get paid. You'll actually, I think, have more free time, and people will value what you do, and you'll value what you do, and you'll look at the world a little bit differently. At least that's been my experience working with contractors who are doing this for the past 40 years. So in this podcast, I'm going to get into more specifics. It's like, okay, who's the right financial advisory customer, client? Who's the right, what's the right methodology to talk to that person? And how do I talk to them and explain to them what I want to do for them and what the benefits are for them? We as numbers people totally get numbers, but I would bet that most of your clients are not numbers people as owners. They didn't start their businesses to do the financial side of their business. Now, the financial side of the business will keep them in business, but they didn't start their businesses to do that. So they're more looking at things from a graphical perspective. If we can show them pictures of the financial health of their company in monthly graphs and in trailing graphs and trend graphs and stuff like that, then they're going to get it. And they're going to be maybe looking at business a little bit differently and not being, okay, I'm just going to throw these financials in my drawer. I don't care. I just keep going. The best thing that could happen to you is something that happened to me. I started working with a client who the first thing from him was, I hate numbers. Okay. I said, you can hate numbers, but I don't expect you to love numbers. But at some point, you're going to understand the numbers. And about a year or so later, after we did this every month and went through financial statements and things like that, he goes, I am almost ashamed to admit this, or I really don't want to admit it, I think is what he actually said. But I'm starting to actually like numbers. I like seeing where we're going. I like making sure we're heading in the right direction. And so I took somebody from absolutely hating his financials to somebody who is, kind of looking at them, to now to somebody who's excited to look at them. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with all of your clients, but if you can show excitement to them and, what's going on with them and ask them the right questions and, point them in the right direction, which is what advisory is all about, then you're in a situation where they're going to pay more attention to you. They're going to be more valuable. The relationship that you have with them is going to be more valuable, and they're going to refer and they're going to stick with you. And that's the cool part. And that's the fun part. And the light bulbs go up. So let's talk about who is the perfect financial advisory client. All right. And you can make if all they care about is doing taxes once a year, they're not your financial advisory client. All they want is their taxes done, and they probably hand you a shoebox with all of their receipts in there, or something along their lines like that. Or I'm exaggerating, but I'm sure that's still happening. I still hear about it every once in a while, but they don't care about the day-to-day financials. Some of the best clients come when you have to call them on March 14th or April 14th or whatever date it is and say, you owe the IRS, $10,000, $20,000, whatever. And they have no clue. After they get over the shock and after you get over tax season, when you say that, you would probably call them at the end of tax season and say, look, I know you weren't happy with the amount of taxes you paid, right? Yeah, no, they weren't. So would you like us to get together and do some planning so we can look at your monthly financial statements to make sure that you don't get surprised again? And some will say yes, some will have to think about it. But the reality is those who say yes are initially your perfect advisory clients. So those who are complaining about the amount of taxes and because they only look at their financials once a year, they don't want to get bit in the butt again. All right. Most of them will learn from that particular lesson and say, no, I'm not doing this again. We got to do something different. And that is your first perfect advisory client. The second type of client who's probably a really, really good advisory client for you is somebody who at least looks at the financial statements you prepare. And how do you know that they look at them? Well, they may look at them and ask a question here or ask a question there. They may look at it and they're looking at their, as I say, their quarterly tax payments that they've got to pay into the system, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can say at that point, would you like to sit down so that we can take a look at it and make sure that we're heading in the right direction and your business is healthy, and potentially do something about that? And a lot of them will absolutely say yes, especially since they are looking at their financial statements. And the third thing is, a lot of times, unless I've had owners who basically say, I know this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen. And they don't know it's going to happen. They just have it in their head it's going to happen. So if you have it in your head that this client is not a good financial advisory services client, then guess what? This client won't be a good financial advisory services client. Don't impose your thought process and your beliefs on a client, because you have no idea what they're thinking. You have no idea if you haven't talked to them except for once a year, you have no idea, where their head is at and whether they'd be interested in it. The worst thing they can do is say no. So what? You go to the next one. You never, ever, ever be afraid of the word no. No generally starts a conversation rather than ends it. In your mind, it might end the conversation. What I do is I do something that Chris Voss, who is an excellent sales trainer, told me years ago. And he said, when somebody tells you no, it's really the start of the conversation. And you answer the question, no, and you make the no into a question with your intonation, and you be quiet. And then you find out what the real objective is at that point. So, make a list of everybody who you've done financial statements for every month. And let's talk to them. Let's, ask them the questions. And after we get back from break, I'm going to give you some ways to do that and see whether they are interested in doing financial advisory services. You might be shocked at their answers. So those customers who are complaining about their tax bill because they only look at their financials once a year are a great advisory client for you. And I'm talking about business advisory here. I'm not talking about personal. I'm talking about business returns. Those who are complaining about their quarterly tax input that they've got to do every quarter and complaining about it, those are also good. And make a list of everybody who you do financial statements for every month, and we'll start asking questions. I'll give you some ways to do that after the break. Thanks for listening to the Financially Fit Business Podcast. We'll be right back.
Financial advisory services are the key to the longevity of the accounting profession. If you want to get started providing advisory services or want a review of a finance course you took in college, Ruth King's manual, Understanding Financial Trends Analysis, might be your first step. This manual gives you the information you need to help your clients with their financial statements. A great start or addition to your financial advisory practice. You help them with clarity on their business's financial health, the ability to spot impending issues and resolve them before they become a major crisis. Less stress and sleepless nights worrying about the financial part of their business. Your Financial Statement Trends Analysis Manual is the reference guide. What do you want in your financial advisory services practice? Click on the link below for more information and to order.
We're back. Thanks for listening to the Financially Fit Business Podcast. Before the break, I gave you some ideal advisory service clients. And all you got to do is start asking the question. And what I find a lot of times is they don't understand financial advisory. And if you just say, would you like us to review your financial statements with you every single month? They're probably going to say no because they don't understand what it is. But if you ask them from a perspective, look, I'd like to show you what your financial statements look like in picture form and potentially do this with you every month. Would you like to see what they look like? And guess how many of them say yes? A lot, because curiosity is there. they may have been looking at all these numbers for a really long period of time and not understanding it. It's Greek to them. They don't get it. So the fact that you're willing to sit down and show them what their numbers look like in a graphical form will really, number one, pique their interest, but number two, have them truly understand what the advisory process is all about. All right. So don't be surprised if you just said, would you like financial advisory services every month? That they say no, because they don't understand it. And the best thing and the interesting way that they answer is just, no, I don't get it. And they're not going to tell you they don't get it unless you answer the question, no. And then you're going to find out how to start asking the questions because of what their reasoning is behind the no. And it's generally they don't understand it. So avoid that particular no by saying, look, I have looked at your financial statements and I'd like to sit down and discuss them with you. And if you've never done that before, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to get scared. Because number one, you're calling them out of the blue. You're calling them and have never done this before. And they think something is really, really, really wrong. Right? So don't be surprised if you get a phone call. What's wrong? Think, nothing's wrong. I want to show you the financial health of your company and set up a time to do that either by Zoom or they come to your office or you go to their office, however you want to set it up. But the reality is if you ask the question that way and say, look, I've been looking at your financial statements and I'd like to sit down and review them with you. Would Monday or Tuesday be a better day for you if you want to go from that perspective? And give them some options. You will probably get some emails back, what's wrong? Or you might get a phone call, what's wrong? Don't be surprised if you do, especially since they've never seen this out of you before. All right, that's step one. So if they're willing to do that, guess what? You have a great opportunity to have a financial advisory client where you review their financial statements with them every single month. Now, some of them are going to want to do it quarterly, and that's fine. As long as the monthlies are done every month, you can continue the graphs and see them every quarter. And they can just do a quarterly review. Some will want to do it monthly. It just kind of depends upon what their schedule is. The monthly reviews don't take probably more than 15 or 20 minutes. Assuming everything's going in the right direction. When things are not going in the right direction is when the conversations get a little bit more in depth and a little longer. But as a general rule, it's about a 20-minute conversation with the graphs and everything along those lines. So that list I asked you to make before the break, either call them on the phone, or if you don't like calling on the phone, or send them an email. And the subject line of the email should be, I am reviewing your financial statements and I'd like to go over them with you. And then, hi, name of your client. I've been reviewing your financial statements and I'd like to go over them with you. We can do a Zoom call on Monday at da-da-da-da-da, or if you've got Calendly, click my Calendly link to schedule a time that's good for both of us. Look forward to hearing from you soon. That's it. That's the email. Or you can do it by phone and do it the phone exactly the same way. It doesn't matter. But get them to the point where they know that you're interested in going over their financial statements with them. All right. So that's the reality of it. It's not hard to do it the first time you send an email or the first time you pick up the phone to make this. It's tough. It's changing your behaviors. It's actually doing something, after a while, it gets to be a lot of fun. Believe it or not, it actually does. But let's, in the last few minutes that we have together on this podcast, these are all the ways that you can look at it from existing client base. But suppose you want to expand your client base. And what I would do is I would look at where your client base is, what industries they are in, if they're contractors, if they're restaurants, if they're bars, if they're dentists, if they're doctors, if they're, whatever. And I would start, it's a slower process, putting together some articles about here's how you review your financial statements. Here's some things you can do to look at your financial statements to make it easy to look at your financial statements. I have a white paper that I wrote that says how to tell whether your financial statements are wrong in less than a minute. I mean, most people who get that, I get a phone call. You can create the same thing. It's just we're trying to do things that make it very, very easy for them to get to know you, to get to like you, and get to trust you. And, as much as we say we don't like social media, we don't like LinkedIn or anything along those lines, that's where everybody's going these days. They're going to agentic SEO and those types of things at the same time. So those are the places you want to be. And then you can always ask for referrals, but I would not ask for referrals until you've been doing this for a period of time. If you are, working with a whole bunch of dentists or working with a lot of contractors or a lot of plumbers or a lot of HVAC guys, go to their meetings, go to their association meetings, present at the meetings. And if you have to practice before a presentation, go practice. Make it fun for them. Don't make it boring. Um, I learned to speak when I went to Toastmasters in 1980. And that was my first foray into learning to speak and learning to present in front of people. There are tons of Toastmasters groups around the world, not even only in the United States. So if you're not comfortable in public speaking, spend some time with Toastmasters. You'll meet some really cool people, and you'll actually get to the point where you can communicate very effectively and do some great speeches at the same time. So those would be some of the things that I would do. But look at where your client base is and start approaching other people in those particular niches or those particular industries, and enjoy the process. It's actually a lot of fun to do. You'll meet some really cool people. You'll meet some duds. I mean, come on, let's be real here. But the reality is, if you enjoy what you do, if you believe in helping your clients, you believe that reviewing their financial statements with them will help them in the long run, then you're in the right place. You can do financial advisory and have fun with it, generate a lot of revenue and profit from it, and have your clients, value you and be really, really good clients and referral sources for you. So that's the first part of this. Thank you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a business owner improve the health of his company. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-8000 or email rking@financiallyfit.business. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable